Hi everybody, my name is Pluto. Welcome back to another commentated Kaizo experience. In this video we have a little hack called Lost Universe 1.5 and we have the hardest level in that hack, Trials of Faith, the red coin star. Very interesting level. I have a lot to say about it, I think. Very interesting hack. I also have a lot to say about it, I think, that I might not say all of it. And a star that, while the grind was not too much, as you'll see shortly, it does mean a lot to me, more so the surrounding context behind coming back to this hack after so long, after the things I said about it, after everything, and finally completing it. It's been quite the journey, and I don't really know 100% how to feel about it. In some ways I'm proud of myself, in some ways I'm questioning if this was the correct thing to do, but what I can say is that I had fun. I think the people watching the streams had fun, and I beat another hard Super Kaizo hack, so I think this was a net positive. So this level can best be described as sort of a unique level, and that's kind of a generic label because you could describe a lot of levels as unique, but it's not. It's unique in the sense that it's going to use a lot of mechanics and have kind of jumps that you won't see most people use, some things that might even be considered almost taboo in the Kaizo design, I guess, meta. It's a weird level. You're going to see things that you probably haven't seen before unless you've seen this level before, and I think it's going to be a fun time. So grabbing that metal cap there is quite awkward. You have to do a pretty precise QSLG to get it. It's definitely a pretty tricky thing, but it happens right at the beginning of the stage, excluding the first two reds, which are a little difficult, but trivial in the grand scheme of things because they're at the very beginning. Getting that red at the top of the lava chamber thing is a little awkward because you need a good height, and here I do a silly mistake of jumping without checking if the heave-ho was in the correct position. Don't do that. It's not very smart. Because of this, I end up having to come over here first and kill this Chukya for some health, because I will be taking some intentional damage here. The reason for that is that this arch has very questionable collision. Combined with the fact that there's a heave-ho on top of this thing, it's much safer to simply jump down into the lava pool rather than try to risk the arch, and you'll almost certainly die doing that, so don't do that. It's worth noting that this level has a lot of cheese, but I won't be able to fully give a description or a look at what this level looks like without the cheese, because truth be told, I pretty much did this entire level by the book, in the sense that I used the good holy book of the people who did the star before me to make my strategies. This little purple wall kick section here is a little weird. It was a major run killer when I was going for the other stars, but I found a strategy that made it significantly less of a run killer. And in short, what it was is that instead of trying to awkwardly maneuver around to the first wall, I would instead do one continuous up motion that I would hold until the last wall kick. That might not really make sense, but basically it's like once I start holding up, I don't stop holding up, and that made it a lot easier instead of having to awkwardly shuffle around. You're gonna see an interesting mechanic in SM54, which is you can actually grab heave-hos in water from behind. I just use a simple setup to grab this guy. Boom, he's grabbing. And if you throw him, as long as you're not really moving too much, he'll actually flip you. So, boom, you can use that to get up here. This is one of the first cheeses. We're gonna be, well, I think this is a cheese at least. We're gonna be maneuvering around here, using the slope. Boom. There actually make not really a mistake. There's essentially two different outcomes there. One is that you bonk, the other is that you're gonna overshoot. I can talk about that a bit more later. What's more important is that coin grab there. You might have noticed that I kind of pause buffered that pretty easy lava landing, and that's because I wanted to make sure that I only got either 2 or 3 coins, because if I had gotten more than 2 or 3, I actually will not be able to do that same strategy on the reclimb that I'll have to do. If I got less than 2, I would be dead. because I would not have enough HP. So it's important that you get 2 or 3 there, so you have enough for later, and for now. Here we have another interesting mechanic. On these slopes that are too steep, you can't really slope jump them off them normally, so instead you have to resort to ground pounds. This was a mechanic that you might have seen, if you've watched my videos, you might have seen it in Bonds Toward the Future, in the cone section. Or at least if you're more familiar with the star. That jump back actually requires a firstie, at least I can't get it without a firstie. And it's not just requiring a firstie, it's a very precise firstie. Your positioning needs to be pretty immaculate. Now that we're done with that, we can actually go into the sort of almost the meat of the level, really, and that is this little 4-way crossroad section. As you can see, there's a path to the left, a path to the right, and a path to the north. The north path we won't actually be doing at all because we're going to be skipping it with a cheese. The left path is definitely the more scary one, and the right path is the easier one, but quite long, so yeah, trade-offs, trade-offs, and trade-offs. Here we have this simple crossover section. It's worth noting that the slopes on top are not nearly as slippery as you might think they would be, so if you land on top of them, it's not the scariest thing in the world, and we're actually going to use that to our advantage. We're going to do some jumps off them later. I mentioned it briefly before, but I don't think I finished the thought. Yeah, I'm not really too familiar with what's intended for some of these sections, so I won't be able to give you like those cool visuals of like what's intended in this, because I don't know what's intended, which makes my editing job easier, but it also makes the video like 10% lamer, so I hope you still like it. Here we're gonna jump over to this cork box section. This section is a little weird looking. It has a lot of very interesting wall structures, but it's a little more simple than it might appear. I'm gonna do a chain long jump of 44.9. That's gonna let us QSLG here. And then if we go to the very tip of the left side here, it actually lines up pretty well that if we do a pause buffered QSLG here, we can just go hold right, and then once we're past the quicksand, holding down right will line you up very well with the wall, and you can jump immediately back into the quicksand, so no like wall kick maneuver to get back. And then all that's left at this point is jumping to the safe ground, which you can do from this here. Now, to my knowledge, there's no real good way to jump back into the main path from here, so instead of doing that, we're simply going to QSLG back to the beginning of this crossroad, and we're just going to retread our ground and get back here. While we're doing this reclimb, I think that would be a pretty good time to talk about just this grind in general. You might notice the text on screen that says PB 5 out of 20. That is not out of date. I fluked the star really crazily. Probably my biggest fluke ever. This is like a tier 7 star, like nearly tier 8, I think. And I casually got it after an hour of attempts. And reminder that this attempt is 30 minutes of that hour. So yeah, that's pretty ridiculous considering I had only practiced for 90 minutes before. I had done a stream of this level where I got all but 1 star, and that went pretty well, but I wasn't expecting to have such sheer consistency. I think it's because after that stream, you know, I slept on it. I took that, like, you know, obviously the break that is sleeping. Sleeping is a break in a way, and that helps develop muscle memory generally, at least from what I know. So I'm guessing that all the hard jumps I was struggling with on that stream were just like the muscle memory kind of set in and they all just kind of clicked and they all felt easy because my consistency in practice was incredible. Not to the point where I thought I was going to get the star so fast, but definitely to the point where I thought I could get a decent PB. So yeah, pro tip, if you're struggling, take a break. Here I'm going to use a hands-free bomb trick. This clip angle, I don't think anyone else does. I do a straight angle, and it happens to line up if you go on the right side of the door and hold forwards. You can happen to clip. The only scary thing is avoiding the bomb explosion, but it can done really easily with a ground pound as soon as you clipped it. Like I said, this level features a lot of things that are kind of taboo or just weird in general. You probably won't be seeing other Extreme Hack creators doing platforming off doors. Doors are a little scary because you do need to be very careful. If you touch the bottom half of a door, even if it's sideways, you're going to open the door. which in this case kills you. And door hitboxes in general are a little unclear, especially around the top and the bottom of the door. Do that. Once we've gotten this red, there's actually nothing else to really do here, so we can just jump off. Thankfully, we can skip the cork box section where we need to fucking go across slanted doors of a cork box. That is, in my opinion, the hardest part of the level that at least you do for a star. It is incredibly difficult, and I'm so happy you don't have to do it in reds because it's so awkward. With that, we have 10 out of the 20 reds, and we can come back here. You don't really see people use glitches in Kaizo too much, and I think that in general there's kind of this attitude that like glitches are like almost a bad thing in Kaizo. I know a lot of people are very turned off by glitches. I remember reading like a comment on bombhacking.com where someone said like, oh, this hack was great, but the bomb clip was so unnecessary. I hate when hacks use glitches. And it was like, I don't know. I feel like glitches are kind of like in a way part of the beauty of the game. You know, sometimes they can be a little egregious, but in this case, what you do see in this level, and it's not everything because you are meant to use some other interesting mechanics and glitches that we skip with the cheeses, but I think in general it makes the game more interesting, and I think the fact that they were used in this fashion, while yes, sometimes it is a little frustrating and janky and annoying, I think it ultimately made the level stand out more, and I think in general it made it a very interesting final level. Usually a final level is a more pure platforming challenge, something that like kind of just tests your general skills of the game and not really something that is trying to be that gimmicky. So definitely interesting. And just like that, we've done a little mini reclimb back to this little water tower. Now we're going to do some cleanup here. There are 3 reds around this tower area that we did not get earlier, but now is the time to get them because we're not going to be coming back here. So get them while they're hot. Here I'm a little uncomfortable by these heave-ho positions. They're all in kind of awkward situations. My ideal positioning is that I want the heave-hos to be around the middle, so that way I can easily grab them, but they're kind of hanging around the edges here, so I swim around to find some good prey. Thankfully, you can stick around this water as long as you want. It is water that will heal you. It's not ice water. If this was ice water, this would be really frustrating. We need this heave-ho because there's another platform similar to the one to get to the main, to get to the crossroads, which takes us to this red coin. Now we gotta go get some red coins in the actual water. The first one is that we're going to be entering this tower, and under it there's going to be a cork box. Cork boxes can be thrown at exclamation point boxes to break them. For some reason, depending on the distance you are from the exclamation point box, sometimes in the process of breaking the exclamation point box, it'll break your cork box. And even worse, there's a very rare case that only happened to me once in practice, and it was one of my very first times doing it actually, where the cork box broke, but the exclamation point box did not. I definitely don't really know the mechanics of this too well, but in my experience, if you throw it from far enough away, your cork box will generally be pretty safe. I think it's when you start throwing it pretty close that it's a little scary. We're going to use one last little weird mechanic of water here, and that is if you enter the side of a water box, it'll snap you to the top. So doing this dive into seemingly quicksand will actually just upwarp us to the top of the water. You might notice that instead of jumping straight into the other water upwarp, which, by the way, the thing that's sending us to the top of the water tower is another upwarp. I don't think I mentioned it, but yeah. Now's a good time to mention it. I do it in the same time every time, and that's just because the heave-hos can be in some different spots. So I want to jump from a position and in a way that will always get me close to the center, because if you're close to the center, the heave-hos won't be able to reach you. So it's pretty safe. We're going to be doing the same thing we did earlier, grab another heave-ho, and we're going to be jumping back. Now that I don't have to explain the coin thing, I can actually explain this jump here. With a okay angle and a precise slope jump, there's one of two scenarios that will happen. The first one is that you jump early, and you'll have to do a wall kick. It doesn't have to be a super amazing wall kick, it just has to be an okay one. It can't be a first D, but also can't be a fifth frame. Both of them I happen to get the wall kick. The other scenario is that you jump 1 frame later and you're actually going to overshoot it, so you have to slow down in midair. It's significantly easier that way though, so you want that to happen. As you can see, I used my 2 coins left over to heal. And now, last time we went to the left, this time we're going to head over to the right, and that is where the remaining, well, 6 of the remaining red coins will be. Will be on this right path. As you can see, we have this like pinkish, almost Sukanento's Dream-esque section here with the stuff. That jump's a little scary because many different places you can hit that wall there. It's like so easy that it's intimidating. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. So this red here, because of the nature of this jump, I wanted to play it careful. So I opted to use this camera to ensure that I got the arch. That's just because if you have too much speed, you're going to bonk on the ceiling and definitely die. An alternative strat is that you can do a safer arch and then wall kick off the brown wall. I just chose not to do that. I found this more consistent and more comfortable. And generally, when you're late in a start like this, I think you should play for what's comfortable, because you don't want to spike your nerves, because if you spike your nerves once, you're probably going to spike them. They're probably just going to be generally higher for the entire attempt, which is going to hurt your performance in general. So, yeah. If you're late on an attempt, always try to avoid strats that you can scare yourself with. On top of the little tower, and here we're gonna head over to what people call the frosted flakes. Yes, my favorite cereal. Actually, I'm not a big cereal person, but regardless, this is the fake floors section. This section is ridiculous. It's ridiculous in terms of how it looks and what it is. It's not actually hard. It's actually one of the easiest sections of the level. It's a series of just like kind of mindfuck jumps where it's like it just doesn't look like what it is. A lot of what seems to be solid ground is not actually solid ground, and yeah, it's just a little weird, but it's pretty easy to memorize what's what. And to do this, here we have to do this chain long jump to go inside within the pillar. Not too hard. Do all this, and then another chain long jump here. Actually, deliberately left coins on that coin pillar there, or that coin column. That's because I'm going to use them as an easy visual cue for whether or not I can make this jump here, because it's pretty hard to see. If I'm lined up with the coins, I'm lined up with the platform, and just like that, we're out of there with that one red. Now we have this castle here, which is reminiscent of luminium, is it luminium? Or is it luminium? Ombre Sphere. It's reminiscent of Ombre Sphere. Yeah, this little castle area. Jump down here for a red. Getting back is, or well, getting to this red is pretty easy, but getting back is a little tricky. Slight angle on the wall kick, so that way you can reach the wall, but not too much that your angle for this section is ridiculous. Now you just got a wall kick. Be careful for the slanted ceiling. I prefer to just jump to the ridges here. I actually forget what the official name of this is, like for like the ridges on top of a castle. I know there is a name for it, but I just don't remember it. On top of the slope here, we can reach this area with this red. Looking at this, you might be wondering why we didn't just jump to here from earlier, but it'll become apparent in a second. It is because there is actually a wall here. A one-way wall will push us out, but will keep us from going back in. Of course, because of that section, we now have to reclimb again. Like the last reclimb, it's a very small reclimb. It's no Dream Edition reclimb, but it is a reclimb nonetheless. I feel like I haven't really talked about this hack enough. People who know me will probably know my deep history with this hack. I won't talk too much about it here, but in short, I was an asshole. I was a big asshole. I said some things that were really mean. I was really toxic to the person who made it, Shine. I was just not a good person. I did a lot of things I regret, and the period of time in which I was first playing this hack was one of my biggest models for what not to do and who not to be, essentially. When I was working on, you know, or not was, I still am, but when like the primary focus of my life was improving as a person and becoming, you know, more likable, more friendly, and just overall less toxic, and you know, that stuff. Like, I just had a lot of, you know, regret for a lot of things I did, and coming back to the hack is extremely cathartic. Just interrupting my little monologue here to mention, don't ledge grab these. You might get destroyed by a collision. Yeah, just triple jump on top. It's not that hard. I was just, yeah, it's very cathartic to come back to this hack because it feels like I finally proved that I kind of got over that mentality, that toxic mentality that was holding me back so much in like 2020, like 2021, and I was able to come back to this hack and enjoy it and have fun with it and appreciate what it is instead of constantly complaining about what it isn't or what it's not trying to be. I think it's a good demonstration of how I've matured in at least some ways, and to me personally, it just means a lot to me to be able to play this hack and enjoy it, because I like who made it and I like it. It's just nice. There, I kind of, in my emotional monologue, kind of neglected to mention two jumps there. The first one was the jump with the vanish cap into the thing, into like the little bottom of the pillar. It's pretty precise, but I made a pseudo setup, which kind of makes it consistent, which is pretty self-explanatory. And then you actually do need a first aid to climb up the tower there. It's worth noting that there's a pretty bad invis-ball around the exit to the tower, so don't go for just a clean landing, always go for a ledge grab there. These cones, similar to the slopes from earlier that I mentioned were not as slippery as they appear. I mean, it's the same texture. These slopes are not as slippery as they appear. You can maneuver on these pretty easily. Here we have this section here, which if you've played Treasure World Course 15, you probably have some memories of something that looks like this. This is, of course, the infamous Big Slope. It is a slope that is big. It's actually a pretty easy section. It's just a really big slope that takes forever to cross. I do actually forget the 19th red here, but I notice it quick enough that I can go back for it, so that was nice. Very silly to forget that red coin, but what can you do? Sometimes you're a dummy. As for the actual strategy on the slope, it's not too slippery, so you don't need to worry about your jumps like actually on it. All you need to do is just when you're going from section to section, just go to the very top, get a slight angle, jump down, and then go as low as possible to get it to maximize that distance, and of course get a kick. Diving on the slope would be suboptimal. It's like in this moment, it's like I was kind of zoning out because like the section's boring, but I was also very aware of how scary this was, because I was very conscious of the fact that if I got this, it would be like such a huge fluke. It would be like my biggest fluke ever. And then I was also aware that if I choked it, it would be like such a bad fluke choke, and like I knew that it wouldn't matter that much because my consistency in practice was great, and I was probably going to get another good attempt soon, or at least I would walk away with a good PB, or I would, maybe get the star soon. But it's like, I was still freaking out a bit because I knew that there was like potential to like bookend such a cool star with such a cool fluke, and it was like, knowing that that was on the table was kind of making me freak out, because it was like, yeah, I really want to be cool. I really want this to like be something that's, a highlight instead of like what could have been, So it kind of does mean a lot to me that I fluked this so much, because it's like, yeah, I had this opportunity and I actually capitalized on it, and it felt cool. It felt it felt rewarding. It felt like I did something that other people would be amazed by, which, you know, is always a nice feeling. I don't really see myself as like a particularly like interesting or cool or like unique or fun person. I just see myself as a nerd who plays video games, and I think people like that despite how I feel about myself. So it's like when I have moments I think other people will like, I get excited about them. So I was excited when I fluked this because it was like, yeah, I think people will like this. I don't know how coherent this is. I don't know if it makes any sense. I don't know if it's just annoying hearing me ramble about stuff, but at the very least, you know, yeah. I wish I had the time to talk about everything I want to talk about, and I wish I had the words to say everything I wanted to say, because I knew that even if I was given 10 hours to commentate the star, I know I still wouldn't say everything I want to say emotionally, because I just would never find the words to explain just how it feels to beat this hack. It's not even because of the hack, because I don't really... The accomplishment's cool, but what has stuck in my head is the fact that I didn't just beat this hack, I kind of overcame myself in a sense, and that was what was rewarding. I feel like I can walk away from this hack knowing that I kind of matured from it, because it essentially brought me to like my absolute lowest moment in streaming, and I feel like in a way kind of showed people who I was. And I feel like in coming back to it and having such a positive experience, I think I kind of showed people how I've evolved past that and who I've become. And I know I have again sacrificed talking about this cool wall kick setup because I want to talk more about my emotions, but I feel like there's a point when I don't really care about what I'm doing in Mario 64. I care about who I am as a person more. I care about ultimately what people see in me more. And I care if what I'm doing is inspirational or, you know, uplifting or a positive influence on the community and the people who watch me. I don't know if for 100% certain I could really say that I was a super positive influence when I started this hack. I don't know if I definitely wouldn't say I was in any way like a good person. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh on myself because, you know, I you know, I guess some people would disagree, but I do regret a lot of what I did. I wish I could go back and fix the mistakes, you know, but it's like, I guess what matters more is that I'm here now, and I don't have to constantly live feeling as if I fucked up and I never grew from it. I feel like some people will say that in coming back to this hack, I kind of proved that I never moved on. You know, I still am like a person who's like, so stuck in, you know, my mindsets and stuff. But like, I think in coming back, I kind of did move on finally. I think I proved to myself that I can grow, I can be a better person, and it definitely doesn't end here. But this is a milestone, and you're supposed to be happy over milestones. That's about all I have to say. Enjoy the reaction. Bye. You're always my friend. I'm gonna go get a water bottle. I beat it. Star display? Star display. Star display! What are you doing? Where's my star? Alright, damn, fuck you. Is star display outdated, or is like that star already fucked? I have the old layout. No. Can you believe my legacy is sullied? There we go. Now we beat it.